All right, so here you are, you're trying to co-parent with someone who's very narcissistic. And it's probably crossed your mind that you're concerned about how your kids are going to turn out, what it's going to be like for them to be parented partially by that person, and the impact that it's going to have on them, the impact that it's going to have on their self-esteem, their personality, their way of life, and all of that. And frankly, you should be concerned about it because, generally speaking, kind of depending on how severe the narcissism is in that person, it can be catastrophically bad for the kids involved. And so the purpose of this video is to appeal to the other parent, what I call the apologetic parent. Usually for those that have divorced, like a narcissistic type, I call that parent the apologetic parent. They tend to be not conflict avoidant, do whatever they can to avoid conflict and avoid issues, even though it completely works against them. Anyways, for those parents, right, that's generally the audience for this type of video. It's going to be your job to offset the effects, the damaging and destructive effects of that parent. If it doesn't come from you, it's likely not going to happen. And sure, it's possible that the kiddo could get some positive things from maybe a therapist or maybe a school counselor or something like that. But chances are it's just not going to happen. Chances are that if you don't do it, if you are not expressly and intently, deliberately and intentionally taking actions and measures to offset the destructive parenting, it's just not going to happen. That kiddo is going to learn a lot of harmful and destructive things. Or what I find too is uh, every person needs to develop a core identity, right? This core identity, it's very, very important. And this is not something that we really hear in psychology and therapy anymore, but therapy is not effective anymore. And I think this is partially why is they're not focused on like the core self, the core identity anymore. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. But you have to understand that kids want to develop this core identity. It's just part of the natural maturation and development, psychological development. A narcissistic parent will destroy it. Will absolutely destroy it if it all goes unchecked, or if you don't support the kid in the proper or correct way. So kids, they need identity. Okay, they need to have a strong sense of who they are. They need to have self-esteem. Okay, they need to have ego strength. They need to have mental strength. And again, a narcissistic parent is going to completely undermine all of that. And believe me when I say there is a lot that you can, and frankly, that you should be doing to help offset the effects of that narcissistic parenting style. And what you absolutely positively cannot do is just wing it and hope for the best. And if you go about it that way, where you just kind of wing it, you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants, maybe try to just do what everybody else around you does in terms of parenting, that would be a bad idea. That would be an extremely bad idea. And I would like to strongly encourage you to do something different. So I realize that a lot of people are probably thinking like, okay, well, I don't know what that means. I'm not exactly sure how to go about parenting my kids so that we can help offset the effects of that harmful or destructive parent. Okay. And so, well, that's kind of where I come in, right? Because I've done a lot of my own parent coaching over the years. I've built my own parenting materials and taught my own parenting classes, amongst other things. And there's a lot, I mean, a lot that you can do to help the kid build those things and do well in those areas and help them offset that destructive or harmful parent. A good starting point is to basically look at what the destructive narcissistic parent does and sort of do the opposite, right? So, for example, the narcissistic parent will always extend love that is highly conditional. And we shouldn't even call it love because real love is unconditional. If it's conditional, if it's transactional, or if it comes with any type of conditions, It's not love now, is it? And that parent will be very, very conditional and transactional with their love and call it love. I'm not I should I'm going to stop calling it love. What they show love in the form of somewhat of an approval. And sometimes that approval is very, very limited, and that kid is going to be starving for it. So there's two starting points for you right there, right? The kid is starving for approval. So what do you give them? You give them lots and lots of approval. Don't make it don't make it fake or shallow or disingenuous, but genuinely cultivate and generate an appreciation for your kid and who they are. You want to support the person, right? I love you for who you are, not for what you do. Is basically the principle and the intention. I will show love based on who they are, not for what they do. Because again, the narcissistic parent cannot show any sort of love or approval or support based on who the kid is versus what they do. Okay, so there's one starting point. The other one, absolute practice and demonstrate unconditional love. Kids are always going to do things that you don't want them to do. They're going to make decisions that you're not going to like. But you always, always have to show love and approval and support, even if you don't, even if you don't like their decisions or even if you don't like their behavior. Another area, an important area of focus for you is to realize that the again, because of the narcissistic parenting and the lack of formation of identity, the kid is going to lack resiliency. They're going to be fragile. This is something that I'm talking about a lot these days. The fragile kids, narcissistic parents basically create fragile kids who are incapable. They undermine their confidence and generate doubt in that kid at every possible turn and every possible way. So your job is to find a way to do the opposite, right? Again, this is just basically your compass. You're going to kind of sit down and examine what are the messages, what is happening to the kid, and see about how you can do the opposite. Okay, and I realize that this is something that most people don't take the time to think about. Most people don't spend time thinking about this, and so if you want some help with all of this, and we can tailor make it for your specific kid, so that your kid is a lot more resilient. Resiliency parenting is something that I do. I do parent coaching is something that I actually love. It's something I'm really passionate about. And I love seeing people get results. If you change what you do and you're very consistent about it, the more likely you are going to see positive results with your kiddo. Now, again, with all of my high conflict co-parenting materials, you're also going to need to examine and confront your own anxieties and your fears of doing things that need to be done on behalf of your kid. Okay, so what you don't want to do is fall into fear and anxiety because you're trying to avoid conflict, right? Because you may end up with a whole bunch of regret, wishing that you had tried harder or done better or confronted your fear or your anxiety. Because a lot of what you do or what needs to be done to help your kid may not go over well with the other parent, and they're going to accuse you of being a bad parent because again, they're not because you're not supporting a kid who is fragile and incapable or has special needs. Okay, and it requires courage. You're going to have to be courageous and bold and unapologetic. Okay, so anyways, thanks for watching. That's going to do it for this one. If you want some help in all of this area, feel free to reach out to me. My website is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not already. See you next time.